Hello and welcome to Socialist Night Live. So it's really good to see you. We're a little bit late this evening, but I hope you've all really enjoyed that interview there with Christine Linderoth. She was absolutely amazing, really brilliant interview, and it's lovely to hear so many things from Sweden. So I'm just going to go around the room. We've got a special guest with us tonight, but I'm going to go around the room and get people to introduce themselves. So we will. Was that from you, James? Yes. Okay. Wasn't my fault then. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go around and I'll start with you, James. You can introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm James Summerall. I'm from Socialist think tank. I do majority the IT, social media, that type of thing. I'm also Eason CLP IT and social media officer. I run Easter and Make a Difference, which is a group and a page of in the area of East Durham that collaborate to essentially try and find a resolution to the common problems in the area, such as like fly tipping, etc. The common problems of basically what councillors experience, and then offer that platform to councillors and also residents of that area. That's me.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. And then I'll come to Rochelle. Hi, Rochelle.
Hi, so my name's Rochelle. I am a teacher, so I teach SMSC, personal development, DT, art, photography, anything creative that I can get my hands on. I'm also branch secretary for the CM Labour group and Durham County Council candidate, hoping to get a seat this year.
Brilliant. And you've been in a massive meeting today, haven't you?
I have 10 till 4, actually 10 till 5-ish. So although it's like we're not teaching online, we're learning online. Like it's just the complete roles reversed, but it's still good. It's lovely.
Yeah, stuck on a screen all day though, sadly. And now, lastly, but certainly last but certainly not least, Martin, who is here to tell us a little bit about a campaign that's going on at the moment. But Martin, would you like to introduce yourself? Tell me a little bit about yourself, and then tell me about your campaign.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everyone. My name's Martin Mayer. I'm Secretary of Trade Union Council. I used to be a Labour NEC member for Unite many years ago. And I'm a left winger, I'm a trade unionist, I'm an internationalist. But I'm here tonight because I'm part of a group that's pushing for a recalled conference of the Labour Party. You know, we've got a real crisis on our hands. The Labour Party doesn't feel like the party that many of us joined. I've been a member of the Labour Party since 1981. I was inspired by Tony Benn to join the Labour Party. And socialists like me have been in there for a long time, trying to make sure our party sticks to its real traditions, standing up for working people, trade unionists, for a better life for families, to rein in capitalism and actually have a socialist vision. Didn't we do well having Jeremy Corbyn as our leader and the opening up of democracy in our party? But nobody ever thought that democracy would be down so abruptly and so quickly as we've seen over the last 3 months. We've got a situation now where many members are angry, they're frustrated, disillusioned, and they don't know what to do. When we try to raise issues about the way our party is being run, when we try to complain, when we try to put motions forward, we're told they're not allowed. We've never had that before. Even in the worst days of right-wing leaderships, we've never had democracy suppressed in this one. And not only that, but if you dare to table a motion at your CLP, which is out of favour with the leading lights of our Labour Party, you can face suspension. And that is really hard to take. Some extremely good comrades right across our party have been suspended for daring to table motions, questioning the decision to suspend Jeremy Corbyn or not allow him back, or even then to say, hey, hang on, you can't go suspending people for raising that as an issue, and you get suspended. I mean, I've been in my local Labour Party meetings and seen people, almost in tears over this, because if there's one thing that united us as a party was our belief in democratic values, the right to be able to express your opinion, comradely, of course, but to exchange views. That's how we have a vibrant party of the left come up with the ideas, the ideology even of where we're going. And that's being crushed. It's being crushed. And to such a point where people don't know what they dare to say at a Labour Party meeting, what they dare to bring as a motion. We've had people think, right, well, this can't be right. We better put a motion of no confidence then. That's now being banned. You can't bring a vote of no confidence in the General Secretary of the Labour Party to express your displeasure at what he's been doing. And if you do, you'll be suspended. And it's left us with almost nowhere to go except either accept that democracy has gone or leave the party. And unfortunately, we are seeing people, good people, leaving the party. And this is disaster. We can't allow that to happen. I certainly don't want to see fellow left comrades leave the Labour Party. I want to stay there and fight for the future. But there is one thing we can do, and they have no right to stop us, and that's to call for a recall conference. So what do I mean by recall? Well, the Labour Party conference is actually the supreme policy-making body of the party. Just like any union, its democratic conference is what has the overall authority, even above the General Secretary of our unions, and the same with the Labour Party. It brings together the constituent parts of the Labour Party, the CLPs, the unions, the affiliated organisations, and it can resolve this crisis. Now, obviously, we need the Labour NEC to agree to that, and nobody's under any illusions. We don't have a left majority in that NEC at the moment, so I call for an NEC to give me a Labour Party conference. I don't expect them to say yes to that. But if there is a real push from the CLP, from the lay membership of the Labour Party, they can't ignore it. And if they do ignore it, at their peril, because there are consequences if you stand in the way of the democratic wish of the party. And we'll take it from there if that's what happens. But what we're trying to do is put a model motion through every CLP in this country as an emergency, and it is an emergency. It's an emergency because, well, first of all, it's such a new issue, and the crisis that we've come to is just only really been revealed to us in the last weeks and months. But also, we're looking to try and get these motions to the next Labour NEC, which takes place on the 11th of March. And if we don't get it through us in February, we'll miss that. Very pleased to say that we've had some very, very good responses right across the country. We've had numerous, we're actually trying to collate how many CLPs have passed, particularly in this coming week. We've got a lot of Labour Party CLP meetings, and for many of them it's their AGMs. There's no reason why you can't put an emergency motion to your CLP, whether it's next week or not. And if we do that, and we can get ahead of steam, and we can build a big, big push on the Labour NEC to get a recall conference, this can really start to change the way our party. Now, I'm really pleased to say that we've got a lot of people on board, MPs, particularly the Socialist campaign group of MPs who've been brilliant about this and given their full and vocal support. We've got NEC members, obviously. We've got many, many local activists across the country, and we've got a number of unions on. We've got the Bakers Union, the FBU, we've got Unite, which is really, really important. And there are other unions there looking to see, you know, as well. Let's just say this: the crisis in this party is not going to go away unless we do something about it. And whilst all the restrictions on what we can do are depressing everybody, if there's one thing that can lift your spirits and get you off your backside and feel that we can actually do something, it's supporting a motion. And that is what I'm asking all of you to do. And give your support to our model motion. Get it to your CLP and get it passed, and let us know you've got it passed. Because the ones that have got it passed have tended to get it passed with quite a big majority. And that's the interesting thing. It might seem as though this is just some scheme of the left who don't like what's been happening in the Labour Party. Well, actually, do you know what I've found in my local Labour Party? And people are telling me the same elsewhere. It's not just the old Corbyn supporters who are supporting. A lot of people who voted for Keir Starmer are also very upset about the restrictions on their democracy and their party. I don't think the leadership is winning any friends whatsoever with what they're doing. I don't think it's sustainable. I don't think you can carry on suspending, as Angela Rayner claimed, even thousands or tens of thousands of members and expect the Labour Party even to be dealing with those, the process of disciplining people. You can't even do it. You can't, it's just physically impossible. And we've already seen, you know, the legal challenge from Jeremy Corbyn's team to the refusal to admit him to the Labour whip. And the result of that has actually led the Labour Party to have to consider, actually has restored some people and overturned their suspension. So we expect that to continue. We need to keep up the pressure. But the best way of keeping up the pressure is to support our model motion, and let's get people off their backsides, spirits up, fighting back for democracy in our party and support a recall conference.
That was great.
Oh,
You
no,
muted
Paul,
by
you
the
put
way,
your
Paul.
mic off.
Oh yeah. Sorry, it's really interesting what you were saying there, because we are, well, I'm a member of Sedgefield constituency Labour Party. I'm the chair, and Rochelle and James are both in Easington. Now, in Sedgefield, we've had to run these meetings in the way that the General Secretary has said we need to run them. And it basically means you can't talk about anything. And everyone's frustrated. It's not our left-right thing. It's everyone. They are so frustrated. Like, we're not trustworthy enough to even mention Jeremy Corbyn's name. We had to remove Jeremy Corbyn's name from a motion just in case, like, one of us got suspended, because we were like, this isn't the hill upon which to choose to die, putting in someone's name.
Yeah, well,
Changed it to
we squeezed this through. We
Yeah.
squeezed quite a lot through in our motion in the CLP. We squeezed through the support of Jeremy Corbyn and the removal of the whip. Also,
It was a timing thing, though.
Yeah, well, it's very much a timing thing. It was submitted before basically the next day when the advice came out, basically. So it was received by Labour HQ before it became effective, basically. So yeah, it was very much a timing thing. Although now I would support personally any motion that brought forth conference early now. By any means possible, whether or not that be online or not. We have been able to effectively run the CLPs and also the branches effectively using online means all this time up until now during the pandemic. I don't see why not. That kind of it seems as though that's liable to do for public elections and stuff, and to be able to operate properly. Why can we not do that for conference? I don't see any difference there personally. That's my view.
Rochelle, you're kind of an interesting person to talk to on this, because you're sitting for county council, so you're running for that, and vote Rochelle and everything, because she'll be absolutely outstanding. And also, like, you don't seem as like kind of I suppose stuck in the ideological side of, like, a lot of this comes as a surprise to you, doesn't it? Like, when you hear about all these things, the left and right problems and stuff. And what's your perspective on this?
I don't know, like, I think one of the main things that I've learned, and I have learned a lot, like over the past few weeks, months, like putting myself up for county, all that kind of stuff. Like, when we had, do you remember when we had the Save Our Socialists on? And I was watching their interviews, and it was, you know, and they were talking about like, they're all volunteers, and I think that's one of the things that we need to get across. Like, these people are volunteers, they don't get paid, everyone shares an idea, and like everyone just wants a better outcome, and that's the main goal. And like, my frustrations come from, why is it so hard to get everybody on the same level and not have all of these silly little suspensions? Because I, like, my job as a teacher, I keep going back to that. You know, can you imagine if we just kicked every child out because they didn't do what they were going to do? Like, it would be silly. You would end up with no one. And then
Reminds me of my childhood.
and the thing is, though, it's not feasible. You can't keep doing that forever. There's going to have to be a point where either the people that are being kicked out say, hang on, we've had enough, or the people that are doing the kicking out are being held accountable. And I think I'd rather we found a middle ground, but I don't know what that middle ground is, because I keep thinking of a solution, and then so very quickly someone will point out, like, oh, well, did you not know this? And this has happened. And then actually yesterday this happened. And it's like, all right, okay. There's always something pushing back. And I do feel like this common goal is just lost. It's absolutely lost.
I mean, there's another thing that's been happening. It's actually happened in my local Labour Party branch in Sheffield, where we just had our AGM last week, which, by the way, we passed the motion I'm talking about. It was also about electing the team to run the party for the next year. And the existing team felt so disillusioned with what's going on. They said, well, we don't want to stand again, and we can't find people to replace them. So, and I've picked up stories of this happening elsewhere too, you know, that we've got, you know, the disillusionment is really, really weakening the base of the very party that we rely on. And if they think that we're all going to be motivated to go out and fight in the elections, you know, what happens is that disillusionment, you need to be enthusiastic to go out canvassing on the doorsteps on a rainy, dark evening. You know, you don't do it because you love it. You do it because you actually believe in it, and you've got some enthusiasm to do it. And if that's been undermined, and you feel you get angry about your own party and you don't feel you can defend it, then, you know, that, and the Labour Party relies on that army of enthusiastic volunteers, because we're always up against the media attacking us. The Tories don't even need to go out knocking on doorsteps. They've got enough publicity for their party just from all those newspapers and all the media that give them right from the beginning. And we cannot win elections without that army. So that disillusionment is a really serious knock-on effect for the party.
Martin, I very much think you've highlighted a lot of what happened in the last election in 2019 as well, like the same disillusionment, the fact that the Tories made their election be over the Christmas period when it was dark, it was wintry, not that many people were enthusiastic to get out. There was a lot of disillusionment between the Brexit debate, all that type of stuff. So the reflections are very much similar in this regard, of where the same tactics what were used by the Tories is starting to be used against itself in the Labour Party. And it's kind of that divide and conquer, divide and rule type mentality is what it feels like anywhere, where you push the people out who don't agree with you, and try to keep as many people with you as possible along the way, in keeping the party small and controllable, where when it is large, it's not as controllable. That's the way I see it at the moment. I don't believe in that. That's very much top-down socialism, has been discussed in the Origin series just released before this, at the start of it. And I really do believe we can have a distributed bottom-up system at the moment. And I really think that keep getting pushed to the side constantly, not within the Labour Party in general, but within the political environment. It seemed to be authoritarian, centralized control systems instead of distributed network systems. And even in technological areas where I work in software development, we're even experiencing now where centralized control is not everything. Distributed systems are the way to go for a lot of environments. And I don't want to get too technical, but you can think of AWS, Lambda, etc. for all of them nerds out there that want to hear the buzzwords. But that's the type of thing I'm talking about. And I think we can put that in a political system as well, because fundamentally we've done this in business anywhere, where we've taken business models and practices and turned them into internal automated systems. And I think we can do a lot of that with our political systems at the moment, where it doesn't need to be authoritarian, but it can still be distributed. That's all I'm trying to say.
While you've been talking there, I have been thinking that if you look at it from like a complete business model, like marketing, operations management type, they're not like the Labour Party at the minute. They're not trying to retain members. I haven't actually seen anything about, we might be doing this, but stay with us, it's going to get better. We might be doing this, but we've got an end goal. We might be doing this. There doesn't seem to be anything. And I do think that if this suspension happens and something doesn't swiftly change, would they stop people leaving? I don't think they would.
I think, Rochelle, we need to go back when Jeremy Corbyn first got elected. There was a huge enthusiasm. We had all these new people joining. We became the largest political party in Europe, over 500,000 strong. But in Labour Party head office under Ian McNichol, that was greeted with horror. Who are all these horrible left-wingers coming into our party, changing the way we want it to be run? Who's this Jeremy Corbyn character that we never wanted to win in the election? And so there was all sorts of shenanigans going on right from the start to undermine Jeremy Corbyn's leadership. And also, just talking about membership, they used social media investigations to try and challenge left-wingers who joined the party to stop them having an election, a right to vote after the chicken coup and the second election for Jeremy Corbyn. And I was on the Labour NEC at the time, and we were fighting all of this. And it was horrific. It was horrific what was going on. We all know, what got leaked afterwards, and the comments that were made that we've now been revealed, an inquiry that's now been pretty much squashed, so we can't even find out more about that and have actions about it. And some of the people that were culprits at the time quietly allowed back into the party. So we know that the agenda of the right has been to view with horror the left-wing direction that the party was going in, to view with horror the increase in membership, which they couldn't control, and to view with horror the idea of democracy, that lay membership could actually have a say in the party. But I never expected it to be as bad as this. I voted for Rebecca Long-Bailey in the leadership election. I know many good people voted for Keir Starmer on the belief that he was standing up for the same manifesto pledges that Jeremy Corbyn fought the last election on, because that's what he said. Interestingly, a lot of those people that did vote for Keir are now saying they don't like this suppression of democracy, and they're supporting the motion that we're talking about. But there is a battle royal going on, and it is for the very, very soul of the Labour Party. It's coming to a crunch one way or the other. And it's best that we're on the winning side. The strategy that we've got is to call for a recall conference and build momentum for that. Let's fight for the future. Let's fight for a democratic Labour Party, because that is absolutely the very basis of what we need if we're going to have a voice and have a chance to left policies, which our country so desperately needs.
Thanks for that, Martin. I'm going to go through a few of the comments now. So we've had a few in. Someone really likes you because you're very wise. We've asked people about the rules. I think you've since answered that. The rules to trigger a recall conference with the recall motion. I think the NEC need to decide, though. Is that right? Yeah.
Well, let me just explain that. The rule book very, very clear. The power to call a conference with the Labour NEC, and they can call a conference at any time within. I think it's 2 weeks' notice even. So the power does reside with them. There is no constitutional reason why we can't have a recall conference. And indeed, even in the terms of the pandemic, we can't. We could have an online conference. And if anybody thinks that can't work, just look at all the trade unions that have had online conferences recently. And the Labour Party is actually planning to go ahead with an online women's conference anyway. So, of course, it's possible. Don't accept any excuses that this just is an unachievable goal. It's not. Absolutely within the rules and very, very much practical.
I think
Thanks
it's
for that, Martin.
Unbelievable, Martin. The only doubt I would have about it is currently Labour Party's voter system. Do you know the online system that they currently have, Anonymous Voter or whatever it is? That is a little flaky at the moment because we've tried it out ourselves while we were doing selections during county council. And it is a little flaky where you don't get the emails sometimes, and I don't know whether or not that's with the Labour Party or whether or not that's with Anonymous Voter as a third-party tool. But sometimes you don't get the emails immediately. You're waiting around a while. People are trying to resend it. Sometimes they don't get it. And I think that will be a problem that they would have to deal with. That's the only pain point I could see, is my point. Other than that, I think we're very much used to the style of meeting up online, discussing topics, being the proper meeting, the best practices, etc. I think all that's laid out. The only problem I have is the anonymous voting thing. If there can be a solution for that, then perfectly fine. I'm all for it.
Well, I think we've had a lot more experience of online meetings and conferences over this pandemic, and people have got a lot better at it. And certainly there are different companies offering online voting facilities, and I certainly participate in one or two, my own union, Unite, which worked. So you're right to raise it as a possibility of a difficulty, but actually there are practical solutions. I'm afraid I'm going to have to be people more technically competent than me, but I'm quite confident we can have proper online voting.
Back to the comments. Paul Smith had mentioned it was Brexit that killed the Labour Party chances in 2019. I think certainly in areas like ours, we certainly believe that. We've also had a question: is think tank just amateurs talking about random policies from a vague perspective?
We get this all the time.
It made me laugh, that one.
we get this all the time.
With no defined topic. Yeah, kind of is, apart from Martin's an expert, and we are very, very much ordinary people, which is the way politics needs to be. We need to have ordinary people talking about politics. So yeah, and I have absolutely no shame in saying that we are amateurs. We're not professional politicians. We're not getting paid for this. Yeah. So we're a
grassroots thing. As they come.
I was going to say, isn't that the whole point?
That's the whole point of it.
I think so. And then Leanne asking, she's been saying about the poll function to vote on CLP motions. Our CLP seems to work well. It depends how it's done, that, because you can do Zoom polls anonymized, or you can do Zoom polls where you know what the outcome is. And if there's a topic that they want to know how you're voting, it's very interesting if they find out which way you're voting in there. So I would just have a little think about that. If you didn't necessarily trust the person who was running that poll, I made that incredibly clear that it was similar. It was exactly the same as a hand vote when I did it. So it's got to be treated exactly the same as sticking your hand in the air, because I can see afterwards who's voted for what. So that's worth thinking. After a short break following Martin's final words, we're going to bring someone who's become a national radio star this week into the conversation. Have you anything final to say, Martin? How do people get involved in this campaign? How do they? We've shared the model motion on our social media platforms. So is there anything you'd like to finish up on?
Well, really to say that, Ray, thank you for big thank you for letting me have a say on this brilliant show. And I thank you a lot for promoting the motion. We're doing that as much as we can across social media. So if you can help with getting the message across yourself on social media, that really does help. If you can take this model motion to your CLP, you'll be doing the biggest help of all. And talk to your friends and colleagues in the Labour Party about the need to actually rise up and stand up to this. Because, I've come across people who really ought to be supporting this, and they're so defeated and demoralised. They say, oh, what's the point? Right. There really is every point. If you don't fight, you will surely lose. But if you do fight, you may just win. And, I'm not going to make some ridiculous comparisons with fascism or whatever. But, when democracy is under attack, the most important thing you can do is stand up and challenge them. Don't be silent. Don't sit back and say, well, that's it. There's nothing we can do. That's what they want you to think. And don't ever let them get away with it. Thanks very much.
It's absolutely brilliant. What we're going to do now is we're going to play a little clip for you while we get reset up. It's a video that Socialist Think Tank made. We were going to play a clip from the radio show that it's been on, but we're going to have to do that in a slightly different way. Thank you so much, Martin. It's been a pleasure to have you on, and take care.
Thanks.
Thank you.
What is socialism?
It's the antithesis of greed.
It isn't about Reds under the bed.
It isn't about taking something away from you.
It isn't about nationalising your nana.
Socialism is about giving power to communities.
Not propping up a system designed by the wealthy for the wealthy.
It's about rewarding people for what they really contribute.
Where a fair day's work earns a fair day's pay.
Not paying massive salaries to those who contribute nothing.
But standing up to those who get all the spoils because they were born into power.
It's about creating a system where nobody gets left behind.
Where we can work together to build something we can all be proud of.
It's about health.
It's about happiness.
It's about fairness.
It's about equality.
And taking care of those who need us most.
It's about everybody working together to create a better society.
Where nobody is left behind.
It's about listening to one another.
Supporting one another.
It isn't just about you.
It isn't just about me.
It's about us.
It's about hope.
It's about hope.
It's about hope.
About hope.
Hello and welcome back to Socialist Think Tank. There, we've just been playing that video there. Leave us a comment to see what you think of it. It's pretty nice, and if you recognise any people in there, give them a little tag in this video. Don't forget to share us if you're enjoying the show. Give us a share, give us a like, and subscribe to our channels, please. And we are joined now Rochelle's just Rochelle's back. Here she is. We're joined now. We're joined now by Laura. Laura is the surprise radio star, the breakout radio star of the last week. Now I may be able to do something. I may be able to do something clever with this. We're going to see.
Stuff,
so.
eh?
Well, no, it's not fancy. It's actually unfancy. It's very, very unfancy. But what it could be, it just depends where. I'm doing a great job. I'm doing a great job. So I am going to just like kind of bodge something together so we can hear the speech while something plays in the background. So let's see if I can get this to work and see if this works. Let's just see if it works. Was it this one? Where is it? Line up that one. I think it's this.
Can I just say, while you're doing that, Laura, stand up. Paul, sit up.
Yes.
Paul, sit up. Yes. Just, we're repping, by the way, just saying.
That's for Joe Solo and everything he does. He's awesome. Buy one of his t-shirts. They come in red or black. Rochelle's turn next.
Here we go.
I'm gonna have to buy one.
Here we go. I hope this is going to work. If this doesn't work, if the sound doesn't come out, let me know. Give me a shout. Okay, so it should though. It should. No, it isn't, is it? Never mind. We had something. So basically, Laura, tell us about your little jaunt on the radio this week. What's been happening?
So I got invited onto BBC Radio 4 on the PM show this week to talk about what I thought of Keir Starmer's speech the other day. It was all very last minute and unprepared, so I had to speak from the heart, and I said what I thought, and my suspension letter has not arrived yet, so I think I did all right.
I thought you were going to say something else there.
No, it was actually really interesting, and there were three of us speaking about what Keir had said in his speech, where we were hoping he would lay out, a lot of specific policies, have a stance on something, anything, and basically tell us who he is and what he stands for and what's important to him. So we were eagerly waiting, and there was myself, a Scottish guy named Stephen from Scotland, obviously. I think he was from Glasgow, and I forget the other guy's name. I want to say Leo or anyway, who was actually from Keir Starmer's constituency. He was very pro Keir Starmer. He came out with all the sayings,
Was he in his campaign team? That's what I wanted to know.
Well,
really, let's think. He probably what it might have been.
He certainly sounded like he could have been, and maybe he was trying to get a job if he didn't already have one. But we kind of didn't argue. We just all set out our points and why we thought it. And I sort of feel like I represented. I mean, I wasn't there to represent Sedgefield CLP. I was there to represent myself and my own thoughts. But I feel like I did sort of represent the thoughts of a lot of people I speak to who are sort of grassroots.
You represent?
Yeah. It was. I enjoyed it. I'd do it again. And Evan, the host of the show, said he wished we could all be in the studio and have a proper debate about it. I think before Socialist Think Tank, I probably would have been terrified of that concept, but it doesn't bother me now. I think what I think, and I have evidence to back it up, and I'm happy with that, and I'm not nasty to people. So that doesn't stop people being nasty to me, clearly, but never mind. It was really good. I think my favourite part of the whole thing, which actually got cut out.
No.
Yeah, it got cut out. We were talking about, I'd made a comment on how Keir was very, clean cut, and he had the right suit and he had the right stylist and the right look. And the guy from his constituency had said, well, I'm sure if Keir thought for 1 second that people would care about his suit, he would have thought about it a bit more, but I'm sure that wasn't on his mind. I think I came back with some well, his researches are pretty terrible, considering that's all we've talked about in politics for the past 6 years was Jeremy Corbyn's shabby suits.
Yeah.
And I just was like, and he didn't have any comeback on that. I was gutted they didn't use it. Yeah, it was good. It was good fun. It was good. You can hear it again on BBC iPlayer. You can agree or disagree with the points I made. But yeah, it was good. Enjoyed it.
I'm going to disagree with one point.
Sorry.
I'm disagreeing with one point. You said that that Sedgefield CLP voted for Keir Starmer, and we didn't. We voted for Rebecca Long-Bailey and Richard Bergen, the Socialist Republic of Sedgefield.
I don't know where that came from. I think it's because I know so many people who did vote Keir, who were from Sedgefield, and it kind of stuck with us.
What we did do is we said we'd give him a chance, didn't we? We said we'd give him a chance. And it's really funny now because the same people who didn't give Jeremy Corbyn a chance are always going, well, you've got to give him a chance. You've got to get behind the leader. If you don't, you're giving the victory to the Tories. We're like, so you were willfully doing that. You really think that speaking out against the leader of the Labour Party is giving the victory to the Tories, and you spent the last 5 years doing it. So you deliberately gave the victory to the Tories. That's where they are logically. Like, their logic is absolutely blown wide open. They believe in nothing. They have no real. They don't really care what they're doing. It's a really frustrating thing for me. Anyone else got any comments on this? Because I was nearly about to go on a massive rant there.
Let's see you reined it in.
The only comment I have on the interview was when Laura's just mentioned all we've talked about basically is this smart a type of look, that presentable like prime ministerial look, shaving clean, tie, shirt, that type of thing. It's like I kind of miss the old days, the old days, quote unquote, where you can have a politician with a beard. It's right out here, someone philosophical, someone with a bit of knowledge, someone with working class in politics.
Are you talking about you?
No, I'm talking
campaigning for Prime Minister here.
Have you not got a beard yourself? You're starting to grow one, I'm just saying it's kind of a look that's not really out there at the moment, although it's very popular. Should I say it, quote unquote trendy, the people with beards, bald heads, long hair, dreads.
What about?
There's none of this cultural diversity within representation in Parliament, is my point. All I see is this clean cut shaven. The majority of the time, they're all highly educated. They come from like Oxford or somewhere like that, or Cambridge, etc. They're not really someone that I can relate to as well. Is what I've seen in the past. To be honest, in the past I have seen people. It's predominantly within like say the 60s plus, 50s plus, where there's a big uprise in intake of working class politicians and views within policy and activities of the government. That's there's none of that at the moment. And I'm just trying to say the look is a thing as well. Like you said, people want respectable, standing people, but I want somebody relatable who's been through my experiences and understands what I need as a working class individual.
Rochelle, you were about to come in there. That's
It's okay, so there's two things that I want to talk about, right? So one of them is this professional dress. So like when you go to school, so when I go to school now, even though there's kids in the building, but schools are closed, so we still have to wear professional dress. So I couldn't rock up in me denim shorts and me trainers, like shirt, trousers, skirt, whatever, smart dress. That I don't, that's fine. But did you not see recently there was a lass in the news, and she had a headscarf on, like a wrapped around, like with a like a bun at the back. It was like professional dress, and she had a jacket on, trousers, whatever, headscarf, and they said, "Well, that's not professional dress. Like you can't wear that headscarf." It wasn't a hijab. It was like a scarf that came around here. I'll see if I can find the name. I'll drop it in the chat. And she got told, you know, you can't wear that, it's not professional dress. And she turned around and said, well, what is professional dress? And they couldn't answer her. So for every day since then, she's been going into work in full cosplay, like Star Wars, like everything you can possibly think of. She's been going to work in full dress up and being like, is this not professional dress? Because, you know.
That's great.
And it's like a massive point, isn't it? Like you can, you know, I'm all for wearing what you want, when you can, wherever. I do think there's a professional dress limit on some things. I don't think it should have anything to do with a culture or where you're from. I don't think that should be like part of it. But it is mad how, like Laura says, that for the past however many years, Jeremy's been pulled down for like wearing threadbare suits or corduroy, or, you know, like that's not a professional fabric. And then there's Kia there, and he's, you know, like Savile Row suits, and everyone's not said a dicky bird. Like it's just double standards.
Didn't he knock someone over on his way to a tailoring appointment? He did.
Yeah, cyclist.
He knocked a cyclist over because he was doing a U-turn. Imagine if Corbyn had done that. So Corbyn is a cyclist who doesn't drive a car, who rides it into Parliament on his bike, whereas like Starmer, apparently during lockdown, it was definitely during work from home. He swung around in the street, chucked a U, knocked someone off the bike and broke their arm, a Deliveroo driver.
That never ever got highlighted very much.
It's like, if that was Corbyn, he's like front page of every newspaper, where it was like a kind of minor story. I want to go back to this, you know, when I was saying about how they seem to suddenly lose their morals, or they'll lose the point when they say a certain thing. So remember when it looked like Jess Phillips might be a front runner for a little bit, and they were all saying it absolutely, undoubtedly has to be a woman. It has to be a woman. Whoever it is, the next Labour leader, we're embarrassed. The embarrassment of not having a woman leader will haunt us forever, until it came down to two women and Starmer. And they were like, Starmer's the only man who can possibly lead us. What do you think of that, Laura?
I think it's pathetic. I think it's I just don't think you should use women's issues and women's rights and equality as a tool, as a political tool. You know, I mean, they were absolutely right. I know they didn't believe it, but we do need a female leader. We really do need a woman. We haven't had one yet. And the argument goes, well, Maggie Thatcher was a woman. Yeah, but she wasn't. She wasn't
so
like.
was Theresa May as well. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the Conservatives have had many women leaders, but the Conservatives.
Mm-hmm.
The difference, you know, we haven't had a left-wing leader who's a woman.
It crosses genders. It like
you can be a dick in any gender.
Being a dick, it crosses genders. It's not gender specific, right?
Exactly. So I think.
And Thatcher was no friend of women, really, was she?
Of course she wasn't. She always said that she needed to work 3 times as hard, and she became more manly than a man to get where she was going and all of that. And I just think I have a real issue anyway with sending women on assertiveness courses and leadership training. Why don't they send men on empathy courses and kindness training? You know, you don't need to be a bully or assertive, you know, to be a leader. You need to give a shit about people and be able to bring people together. I think they're the types of leaders we need to be looking at, and I think women do that really well. We see it all the time. When women get together, they can create amazing things. And you know, I could bleat on about this forever because it's literally my wheelhouse. It's what I live for, promoting women and encouraging women. We've got a real problem at the minute in this party with how badly women are treated. People are trying to, you know, shove this under the carpet, but I've seen it, you know, I've experienced it firsthand. I've spoken to many, many, many women who experience misogyny, bullying, just being treated like a second-class citizen, and like your opinion doesn't really matter because you're just a woman. And even women in the party who say, for instance, in the leadership election, where you've got to vote for Keir because he's a man, and that just baffles me. No, I'm all for the best person for the job, and we can talk about all women's shortlists if you want to, but you can't just choose someone because they're a man. It's ludicrous. We've gone past that. We should have. I think we've got a lot of work to do on that.
Rochelle, you nearly came in there. Come on.
Oh, I'm still thinking about like when you right. Okay, so I'm going to try and pull this all together. So in my head, I'm thinking about everything that Laura's just said, everything that we've just talked about, all this, you know, like Paul Smith in the comments there is talking about like identity politics and like women and men and misogyny, and like something that spoke to me on so many levels was when and I can't remember her name, was sat in Parliament and she had her shoulder out. Do you remember?
Tracy Braben.
Yep, that's the one. She had her shoulder out and she was doing her thing. She was just doing her job. And then all of a sudden there was a massive scandal because she had her shoulder out. You know, should she have had her shoulder out? Like, what's this? Are we in Bridgerton? Am I allowed to show my ankles? Like, what? Like, when has that been a thing? And I totally think that when you're talking about we've got so much work to do, it's not that we've got so much work to do, totally agree. It's that we're kind of letting these people say this kind of stuff. Like, we're like, what is the year? We're not in the 1800s. Like, I would not let somebody bring me down or even make that a point. Like, you've got your shoulder out, and like,
Well, the thing about that is though, Rochelle, she felt so compelled. They had such a go at her. She felt compelled to have a comeback. She was like, well, actually, you know, I'd been to a party, and then no, if you wanted to go to Parliament dressed like that, it's absolutely fine. You didn't have one of your boobs out. You know, it's
you don't have
ridiculous.
to justify yourself. Like,
no,
not at all.
No.
And
it goes back to something that. Sorry,
I was just going to say, back to Paul's comment about like identity politics. Identity politics always plays into the hands of the right because we're not talking about they just become tokenistic. So the Conservatives are like, right, we've solved racism because we've got a black member of the party in the cabinet, or we've got an Asian member of the cabinet an Asian member of Parliament in the cabinet. And this solves, well, no, there's no inequality because that person's there, and they love identity politics. It's not about that. It's not about single individuals. It's about barriers to whole swathes of people. And this is why, like, all women shortlists don't get rid of any barriers. They don't get rid of, like I'm supportive of more women in Parliament always, and I always would do, and I personally vote for women a lot. It's just like an all-women shortlist gets rid of none of the barriers that stop women from getting into Parliament. Like, so does that help young mothers, for example, get into Parliament? Does that help a cleaner get into Parliament? You know, does that all these working class people who don't get into those positions because, you know, and we've got like young mothers on this call who've stood for positions and stuff, you know, and it's hard, isn't it? I imagine.
Did you not say that it was like a very, very recent Durham County Council meeting, and they were talking about getting young women especially into politics, and one of the motions they passed not a month ago, it can't be more than a month ago, was maternity leave, paid maternity leave in Durham County Council. Can you believe it? They only passed the motion about a month ago.
They still, I watched the debate in Parliament this week. They're still talking about it in Parliament for MPs. They don't. They have to leave their job for a bit and then try and come back. They can't. They can't have somebody to cover for them. They have to have no pay. They just have to go off and have a baby and not get paid. It's ludicrous. You know, the whole system's archaic, though. It really is.
And there was I'll not name them, but there was people on this Durham County Council meeting who were saying, you know, the complete opposite. Well, why do they need to have maternity pay? Why do we need to have that? And it was, I even asking the question, like, what do you mean? I cannot believe it.
Can I just interject? Is it stereotypical? The type of people who come up with these ideas, is it stereotypical of their personality, their background? Could you identify one as left or right wing, or the idea is what you're saying as, would you identify them as left or right? That's all I'm trying to say.
Is it not a
would you identify that as left or right just because they're being misogynistic or not? Is that a left or a right wing politics, or is that not?
I've seen many left wing men be misogynistic, unfortunately. Yeah. People who would class themselves as left-wing men. And it's not so much about left and right. It's definitely a societal issue, and it's something we've been brought up with. Going back to something that Christine said in our interview tonight, actually, really struck a chord with me. It's just the many layers of battles that women have to fight that probably men don't even realise. But the unrealistic body standards that Christine talked about tonight is a thing, and it is a thing that seriously impacts all women. Some people will make a point of saying they don't care and I'm happy the way I am, but they have to make a point to say that. The rest of us struggle every single day getting up thinking, am I good enough? Because I don't fit into this one mould that was set by some man years ago who decided what beautiful is. And I'm really a massive advocate for the fact that every single person on this planet is beautiful, whether they're aesthetically pleasing to some people or others or not. They're beautiful in their own right. And you shouldn't, if we all did the same exercises and ate the same food and drank the same drinks, we all still have different bodies. So we should completely celebrate that. But that said, I still wake up every single day crippled with insecurity. I don't like myself, and I think I need to lose like 5 clem, and I need to get my hair done, and I need to have the right makeup on. It's incessant, and I hate it, and I don't like thinking about it. It's a waste of my time and energy. But it's something that is, built in from a very young age, scarily young actually. And I know men are starting to experience a bit of that in terms of, there are certain people they've got to look like, and they've got to be, if you're going to have a beard, it's got to be the right beard and stuff. But it's not something that you live with as a part of you for probably your entire life. And we need to battle that, because it is just a way, again, to control women. I think I realised that was a rant. I apologise, but I am very passionate about this subject.
I was going to say before, though, this everything we've been talking about is a power dynamic. It's like, well, you can't come into Parliament wearing clothes like that because you're not me, you're not rich and powerful, you haven't been brought up to know exactly how we're supposed to dress. How are you supposed to dress? What a weird thing to do, like to have a standard way to dress. Like, it's like having, your forks laid out in a certain way or something like that. When they
have a uniform.
Yeah, well, have a uniform, but they do, don't they? They have the rich person's uniform. Apparently, they used to sneer at people who used to turn up to Parliament in brown shoes. This was a thing. Like, they used to laugh at people because they had brown shoes. And I loved it when the Labour Party MPs turned up in the work gear. When MPs were workers, when there were a lot of miners and stuff, and they actually turned up in full work gear rather than trying to fit in.
Hat is, I know it's stereotypical to the Tories and stuff. If you go into Parliament, you're probably taken as a joke as soon as you do it. But even that is a representation of you are. It's a true intention. As soon as you go on, it's a signal, as we were on about before. It's a signpost to say we are the working class. If you walk in with just a flat cap on, that's it. Everybody knows from that moment on.
But just a flat cap and nothing else?
No, no, but I'm just saying it's just,
my kind of Parliament.
Obviously many more signals for that. But the flat cap is always been a very signifier for quite a long time.
Tories are wearing it now, though.
If it was ever me, I'd take the chav cap in. I would get the
chav cap, the recap with a proper peak.
I would have the peak on, everything the peak, walking like this, cap on. That is.
Imagine how that would rattle them.
Oh, it really would. That'd be so funny.
Shall we do a few? Shall we do a few comments?
To do that. Yeah.
Shall we do a few comments, because they've been really good as usual. So one of the things I like most about our shows is that we get loads of audience interaction. So for the rest of the show, I think we should be trying to do that. So we've got like, you can't see this. So like the people who are at home are seeing. Not that we're not at home, but the people at home are seeing the comment box on the side, and they can see the comments coming up. So you can see your own comments coming there, and that's a really good thing. And a massive one's just come up from Tim, which is always high quality. But we've all got them. We can all see all the comments. So let's go through a few comments, and maybe
I can't, to make you aware, I can't
you
see
can't.
anything. No, I'm on my phone.
Right. Okay, but, yeah, because you had to do
I'll
that.
put on the telly for you. There you go.
That's how it looks.
I can see that.
But Laura can't see the comments is the issue. However, the rest of us can. So let's have a look at a few comments and see if we can. It's never going to be in real time, especially when Tim's written.
I'm trying to read it now.
Here. Yeah, it's a Bobby Dazzler, but it's an essay. So, where are we with regards to this? So we've had Mark Lungley talking about paid paternity leave. Should men have time off when they become a dad? Yes.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
Not an
Yes,
argument.
it should be fair.
And just outright from my personal perspective, I've had 3 kids. I'm not even 30 yet. And to put that in perspective, the amount of time that I've spent away from my kids to be able to ensure that they have some sort of living standards is unbelievable, because like motherhood is very much involved. And to be honest, I don't expect anybody to be able to work the first couple of years of a child's life, because it is so intense. As an individual, it needs to be at least one parent working full time for a couple of years at least, in my opinion.
I have to say on that point as well, I think, again, from a personal point of view, I don't know if this is the same for all people. I know a lot of Wonder Women. If Paul hadn't had time off when I had our kids, I don't even know if I would have survived, especially after Scarlett. The birth was really difficult and I wasn't right for a few weeks after. And Paul made all my food. He did all the tidying. He basically looked after Scarlett for like 2 weeks. And it was really, really hard physically and mentally. And I think had Paul not been there, that would have been so much harder. And I think, you know, giving birth or having a child, in whatever way you do that, whether it is bringing a child home or physically having it or having it cut out of you, whichever way, you still become a parent. And I think if it's possible, you know, if some people are single parents, and that's fantastic and good on them for doing it. But if you're in a couple and that's how you want to bring up your children and how you're able to, then you need that time to bond as a family together, because it's such a change. It hits you like a ton of bricks. It's beautiful, yes, all that, but it's bloody hard. So yeah, I think yes, paid paternity leave is. I don't think you get many arguments on that, and if you did, I can't even imagine who you'd get an argument from. I really can't. Maybe Boris Johnson.
Who haven't had children
never
yet,
work.
Right?
And I think that is half the battle. Like when you were talking about stereotyping earlier, I can't, like, we've all had children. Like, it's horrendous. Like what Laura says, like the birth, the after effect. Like, I had no idea giving birth to me first that it would be the way that it was, and that afterwards, when Rob went back to work, because he had 2 weeks off, so he had 2 weeks paternity. When Rob went back to work and I was just left like bedridden with this child, I was just like, ew, what am I doing now? And I think it's really bad at the minute now, where, like, especially in lockdown, husbands are going to work and the women are left at home with their babies in lockdown, in full lockdown, and the support's being cut and all the services are being cut. You know, there's no like Sure Start centres around where we live. You know, that it's just, there's no support there. There's not. And I don't think it should be dwindling. I think it should be doubling. Like,
nailed it.
Trying not to rant.
No, you nailed it.
From your point of view?
Oh.
Point of view, Paul?
Me? Oh, well, I've kind of hit lucky a couple of times with our paternity leave, haven't I? So the first paternity leave we had, it's funny because we were sitting in hospital when Scarlett was about to be, we didn't know she was Scarlett then, she was just coming that day. And I got something through saying I didn't need to go back to work until September, and it was March, so that was really nice, because I'd somehow become incredibly unpopular because I wanted to take trade union action in a school, and these things happen, so they sometimes tell you to go away for a bit, so that happened. It was pretty good, wasn't it? It worked out pretty well for us and our family. So I had a bit of a nightmare in one of my workplaces, and then ended up it was a blessing in disguise, really. So always solidarity to the NASUWT and Simon Kennedy for doing that for me, because absolutely class. Join a union, everyone.
Yes.
and so I think that I like the model in Finland where you can basically take a year each, you know, or you can take it like both of you can take a year, or you can take one of you take a year and then the other one take a year, or you know, a bit of a mix.
Is that only between marriage though, or what's the crowd with that?
I don't know the full details. But it does sound really nice.
It sounds nice, but in principle, but in the detail, it would, because obviously the society has changed quite a lot. There's not the marriages around the downtown, etc., etc. So I'm just wary of, as long as it's separate, including separated parents as well. I'm just speaking from a personal.
Definitely should. It
should just be the mother and the father, shouldn't it? As long as each party plays a role.
The mother and the mother, or the, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
There is like a shared, you can share it, but it's not shared as we know it. Because me and Rob were going to do it. It was like, when you're at work, so when Rob was at home, I could be at work, but I was breastfeeding, so it was like you couldn't, like it was almost like we couldn't do what was set out because the rules didn't allow you to do, like it wasn't very flexible. Isn't that with everything? But there was a way that you could do it, but it was just so, and it, like, I wouldn't say that I couldn't understand what it was actually asking us to do, but between my employer, me, and Rob's employer and him, between the four of us, we couldn't figure out how to make it work. And that's like with everybody on board. And I can't imagine having to go through that situation where the people weren't willing to help you, because we couldn't make it work with all the will in the world. And I think a lot of the things that are out there available for parents and split paternity leave, it's so complicated. By the time you figured it out, it's almost not worth it, because it doesn't fit your need. Do you know what I mean? It's not as flexible. You can't just say, oh, well, I need this, and this day, or, you know, I don't know. It was just really difficult to try and make any of it work. It was almost pointless.
Class. Not class comment, not class that you went through that. Does anyone else think I've got a Howard Moon vibe going on tonight?
Howard Moon.
From the Mighty Boosh.
Want to answer that?
Clarify a second, please.
Yeah, I think I've got a Howard Moon vibe going on.
I know who Howard Moon is, I get that.
Yeah, a bit Howard Mooney tonight. So Leanne said she joined Unite Community because of Stuart's encouragement on our show, which is mint. You know, it's really good. Have you just had a look at Howard Moon there by any chance?
Can I also?
I thought I knew who you meant, but I kept thinking, like when I'm not even going to do it, where the moon talks.
Oh, when you are the moon.
That's what I was picturing in my head, and I was like, you can't do that. So I had to Google it.
Right, so I want to go back to Starmer's speech. So what does it mean? What does it mean for us? Was it good? Was it like, so Laura's had her opinion on national news, which was pretty awesome that she did that. So what do we think? Like, what would we? One of my friends, Harry Cross, has put something on Facebook and says, how would we have received it if it was Jeremy Corbyn's speech? So if he'd have said the same things, would we have been up in arms? Would we have been supportive? Would we have thought neither here nor there? What do we think?
I would have said exactly the same thing. Uninspiring, uninspirational, no real plan for the future. It's just ad hoc terminology that is being printed off due to some key focus groups. Amalgamated information to be able to combine into a, quote, economic policy towards business and try and bring along as many people as possible along the way. That's the way I see it. I would have said exactly the same under Jeremy Corbyn, but we all know that Jeremy Corbyn wouldn't have went a business first approach. It would have been a people's led first approach.
Succinct. That was nice. Rochelle?
It was like, I hate to use the word flim-flamming, sort of not really had a point, very subjective, like I couldn't pluck from there and tell you the things that I was excited about or the things that I really wanted to move forward, because I want to do things, and I want to move forward, and I want to put things into motion. What Key is talking about and how it relates to like where I live, who I live with, how does it affect them, and all the way through it, I couldn't make those links, and I think that's really like, that's not a good thing. And if I can't make the links and I'm really trying, how is someone going to make those links who's only partially listening? Or, you know, those people that have left Labour, are they going to be, you know, empowered by those kinds of speeches? Or I don't know, like the whole bond thing, like not James, but the bonds and the talking, like the money, like I don't know, it's just all a bit like wishy-washy. Now totally into symbolism, not symbolism, but you know, we're talking about like the purple, the background, the 3-word comments on his podium, you know, I don't know, the whole thing was just a bit like soggy bottom.
Could you
foggy
see it's like
Britain.
the pandemonium? You could see through the display that it was presenting. Is that what it was? Like, because obviously you have that with every leader, right? Every leader has a display, right? You've got to present yourself towards a nation, right? So there's obviously some sort of stage and display to put yourself on. It just felt to me that this one, there's no connection in this stage. There's no enthusiasm. There's no there's nothing like the 2017 election, for example. There's no enthusiasm. There's no vision. There's no future to look forward to. There's these anecdotes in these sentences, in these phrases that you put out to think that you have a vision, but in reality, there's no vision behind it. That's what it feels like at the moment. And I'm not buying towards that. Labour is much more than that. We've come up with great policies before. It's not the policies that were the public were against. It was majority a lot to do with the decisions that made within the Labour Party and also at conference that then subsequently affected the 2019 election. We all know what that decision was. One in particular, there's not just one decision, there's multiple along the way. The strategy decisions between Jeremy Corbyn's team, which they took on, i.e. announcing policy decisions every other day, and then that just wasn't coherent, so their election wasn't coherent. We have people undermining their election throughout within the Labour Party itself. There's a lot going on there. I kind of went off on a rant on one day.
Was it
Why
completely?
couldn't he just do his own thing though? Like why? Sorry, why couldn't he just do his own thing? Why did he have to have 3 words on his podium? Like what? Like it makes no
focus groups. That's the slogan thing works. It's a psychological thing. The 3-word slogan. Just to put it in perspective, it's a psychological thing. So the 3-word slogan works. Always has done.
Yeah,
always will done.
If in a
it's
world
been there since like the 50s or 60s, if I believe, the 3-word slogan tactic in the media. But it's not. It's what's behind that 3-word slogan. There's no real solid policies or anything concrete under that. The direction is not there. Like I don't mind the 3-word slogan, because you can say the same thing for the 3-word slogan is the same one for Jeremy Corbyn, for the many, not the few. It's still a 3-word slogan. It's just 3 sentences. It's the same principle. So, but there was a lot behind that to back that up in that movement. Whether in this one there isn't. That's what I see.
Yeah, I always do. Whenever I do a speech, I always do it in 3s. I always do I always make 3 points 3 ways. So there's always 9. If I ever write a speech, it's always 9 things. 3 points 3 ways, and you circle around them, and then like the 3rd time it goes in, that's the psychological side of it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure whether that is.
Like I get the philosophy and I understand the advertising, I understand why it works, but in a world where he's being compared to, you know, partly being a Tory, he's not socialist enough, all this kind of stuff. All of the people that he's got to give him these ideas and do these other things, why would you not take a step completely away from all of that and bring your own things to the table and think your own ways and, you know, have your own ideas? Because I'm not the only one.
I think one of the big problems we've got is that, unfortunately, the British public, like every single human being in the entire world, we do get sucked into advertising, and so the slogans and the shiny suit. Because much like we were talking about earlier on about how women are sort of conditioned to think they have to look a certain way. People are conditioned to think their politicians need to look a certain way. And that's what he's trying to live up to. Now, for people who are really engaged in politics and are certainly of the left like we are, we can see straight through it and go, yeah, it's shiny, it's bells and whistles, he's got his statements, but there's nothing behind it. He's not actually going to change anything. That's where we need to be making a change. We need to reach normal people to explain to them, this is what's happening and this is what you could have if we did things differently. Things don't need to be the same. We've done them the same for thousands of years, and always the right wing come in and take over, whether they're disguised as left-wing people or not. And it's just, read The Ragged Trousers of Philanthropist, it's devastating to read because we're still fighting the same battles now. We need to get to the grassroots and explain to them that they are working class people, they should be making the decisions for the country, and that is possible. It is possible. I don't know, maybe we need a whole restructure of how our democratic system works.
One of the interesting things I've seen is the people who've defended his speech have tried to claim he's a bit of an Attlee figure, and I don't know what your Labour Party history's like, but I find it. Was that a bit of a laugh there, James?
Yeah, no, it was more than a laugh. Sorry.
Yeah,
I hide away for a bit.
They keep on saying, oh, he's a bit like Attlee. And like when you boil it down to it, it's like, well, why do you think he's like Attlee? What Attlee like quality has he got? Well, he's boring, isn't he? Because Attlee was famously boring, but he wasn't. Like in private company, he was witty and charming and what have you. But like he was definitely like Attlee was of the establishment. He was rich, relative to ordinary people, but he was definitely a socialist. He was definitely to the left of Keir Starmer. He was a top-down Fabian socialist, which I know we disagree with, but like Starmer has climbed his way into the establishment and doesn't seem to want to let go. That's where I feel he is. And I think the idea that he's anything like Attlee because he's a bit boring. It's like, oh yeah, they're both boring. They're both boring. He'll be a brilliant Labour leader. Boring. Be as boring as you possibly can. Tell you what you need to do. Just like have a photo of a slug or something. That's boring, isn't it? We put them in a suit. It's like, what are you doing? Being boring isn't a quality. And Attlee was meant to be a little bit dull, but like kind of reserved because he'd been an army captain. Like people respected him for a lot of reasons. He'd done his military service and things, and it was a particular time where you needed that, and he'd done it in World War One and what have you, served with kind of distinction. He was pretty good. He was a good chair. He brought people in, and he wasn't particularly factional as well. So, and he also put someone like Nye Bevan, who he'd taken the whip from a couple of times, into the health role. He'd had fights with Nye Bevan, but he still gave him a position of power. What's Starmer done? He's done the opposite of that. He's former leader who was nothing but loyal to him.
Tried to do that. He reached out. He formed a coalition, the shadow cabinet, and we already went down that route. And look where it got us. Is my point. Like, I don't want to say be more brutal or anything like that. I just think we need to defend ourselves a little bit more. We need to put ourselves out more. We need to defend our position and stop compromising to the point where we are so distanced from what we truly believe in, then we feel disillusioned around the people who we are with. What we need to do is bring more people like us who are more less top-down Fabian socialism and more bottom-up socialism type principles to be able to come in to movements such as the Labour Party in Britain and in changing from within. I think that's the only way to do it because, as you say, the Labour Party is the only vehicle at the moment to electoral success within the UK for the left. That's the way I see it.
So, like, do you think there's a movement against bottom-up socialism? Because everyone I ever speak to, if you explain to them what bottom-up socialism is, they really like it. They really like it. but they don't see the Labour Party as being that. Probably because the Labour Party has its roots in Fabianism and the top-down model and what have you, and they haven't seen that. And I think that's what a lot of people think socialism is. It's this top-down model. Thoughts?
My thought is the only way to really experience it is by getting involved locally yourselves, by doing it. You've got to be able to put yourself out there. Like myself, I never really got into politics until I was over the age of 25. I've been surrounded in it, thought about it, looked up on the internet, spent hours and hours and hours and all this theory and this philosophy, etc. And I'm going through all the political systems, working out how their economy works, etc. And after all these years of accumulated information, it just really boils down to whether or not you're really going to get out there and do something about it, because you can sit there behind a screen all you like. You can sit beside, listen to this all you like. It's not really going to make a difference until you get involved into politics locally. Whether that be just getting out to report some fly tipping that's in the street or some dog poo that's lying around, that type of thing. Complain, get involved, do something about it, shout at the top of your lungs if you can. Get involved with your local politics, go into the parish councillors, that type of thing. You need to get involved. That's the only way I see it. Because if I didn't get involved, I was on a lost road, is all I can say. I think this road has corrected me. This is the right road to go forward, and this is the only way that we can really, really help everybody in society.
We've got a cracking comment in from Mark. People won't engage with long and wordy policies, and that can be Labour's problem. We have wordy policies, nothing wrong with slogans, but as James says, there must be substance behind the slogans during policy forums. I always try and get people to think of a way we can put it as simply as possible. I think that's right, isn't it? It's like, I read something from Paul O'Connell on Twitter today, and he's like, 20,000 word essay, 150 word comment. It's like you've got to be able to explain things quite succinctly, don't you?
Yeah, and I think the most important policies are the simplest. Like, no homeless people, no people starving. They should be no-brainers, and they should be things that speak to the people of this country. At the minute, we are designing ways to make money where the people of this country need to take the lead on that rather than the potential government, which I think is ludicrous. We're in a position where we're all just trying our best just to survive at the minute. There's a lot of small businesses have completely gone under. There's a lot of people who, the furlough scheme didn't work for them and are now broke, and people queuing up at food banks. All of the political manoeuvring of, don't worry, we'll keep the big businesses happy as well. I get that governments want to stay rich, but money doesn't matter when lives are at risk. And I think the simplest policies are the best. And Mark's absolutely right. If you can't say it in a few sentences, it's probably not worth doing, because the big wordy, you're just disenfranchising people if you start using really long words like disenfranchising, apologies. People don't give a shit about long words. They just want to know they're going to be looked after. That's it.
I agree. And they only want to know how it affects them and what they can do about it. So for all those people who, might not like long words and or understanding or anything like that, like I come from the complete opposite of James. I'd been engaged with politics sort of like not on the fence, but like I know what politics are, I want to get involved, I want to help, I don't really know how. I'm willing to learn along the way. And like mine was like very much, I didn't learn about any of the theory, or I didn't have like not like an interest in that, but I did the other way around. And everything that I've learned so far has been because of where I've been, who I've been speaking to, what kind of conversations I've been having, and like asking questions. I think asking questions is one of the best things you can do. Like ask people. You don't know something, like go and speak to somebody. Like I've mentioned it before, like if you want to go and drop in on your town council meeting or your county council meeting, like you can do. And all of this, when we're talking about wordy things, like it's the same at school. You you've got to look at people's reading ages. Like, what do they say? Like the Mirror and the Sun, you've got to print in something reading age of 7-year-old. That's the general print reading age. And you think politics affects everyone, and they're printing stuff like that has a reading age of God knows what. Like it separates themselves out. It is a class issue. Like, I don't want to,
I love it when you bring in class issues. Right, so what we're going to do is, before we go, I think we should wrap up in the next within the next 10 minutes. But before we go, what I'd like us to do is each of us try to dispel a myth about socialism. And this is a complete surprise, and we'll try and do it in a really, really short space of time. And if anyone on the chat wants to dispel a myth about socialism and help people out, that would be amazing as well. So what I could do is I don't mind starting to give you some thinking time if you want. And my little short dispelling a myth about socialism is that socialism wants us to be like Russia. So when it was the USSR, that was not socialism. That was a top-down system in which it was basically state capitalism. So it was doing what everyone else did, but instead of people owning property, it was the state that owned the property. We want a different system to that. And the other thing is, if we've got any links with Russia now, Russia has the least progressive tax system. By progressive, I mean nice and socialist. It has the least progressive tax system in the world. 13% flat on everything. 13% flat income tax on everything. So if you're a billionaire, you pay 13%. If you have nothing, you pay 13%. You pay 13% on everything. Some people might like that, but that is, for me, a really unprogressive tax system. And it means that billionaires can have as much money as they want, and other people. That was quite long for a little short, snappy thing. But there you go.
We've got one. Socialism is just giving people free stuff.
Right. Who wants to dispel that one?
I can dispel that. It's not giving people free stuff, because wouldn't you pay for it? You're worth something, right? When you were born, the state assigns you a particular amount of money on your head. Essentially, that's what happens. If you boil it down, that's currently what happens. You are worth, if you want to go down to Marxist principles, it's every unit of everybody's piece of work equals a unit of output production, which increases wealth, etc. So you should be awarded that wealth of production. That's the way I see it. It's not really giving people free stuff. It's giving people what they need and require to live a regular and normal life in a modern society. That's the way I see it. So that means you can have your water, you can have your electricity, you can have your heating, and you can be bloody fed. Like, we should, at the moment, like food should be a human right. Water should be a human right. We shouldn't see people skipping meals either 1 day, 2 days, 3 days a week. It doesn't matter. One meal is too many meals to skip. We know what the deprivation of that happens. We know this effects that it has on society, on education, on mental health, on the NHS, etc. What we really need to do is bring focus to the people. It doesn't matter whether or not you can see it as giving it for free, but in reality, you're not, because you're paying for it in your taxes.
Okay, cool. That's pretty good. Pretty good. I would also say that you can dispel that myth by saying you're just not like rewarding billionaires for your work. That would be how I would dispel that really quickly. Billionaires just get rewarded for other people's work, whether that's the roads, whether that's the NHS that keeps their workers healthy, whether it gets like any, all these things, when they're not paying their taxes, when they're not contributing and getting everything out of a system, then, it's not us getting something for nothing, it's them. So capitalism is kind of the opposite. Right, Rochelle and Laura, which one? We've got more comments as well.
I've got one.
Do you want to go, Laura?
Yeah, so the main myth that I always hear is that well, it normally comes in the form of a question, and it's show me a country in which socialism has worked. It always fails. Actually, it doesn't, because it's never actually being tried. Socialism has a long and rich history, and there are many forms of socialism. There are forms of socialism like the Fabian socialism model, which is people at the top deciding what is best for everybody at the bottom. We are so altruistic, we will do this for you. That is not the model of socialism that we would conform to, or that we represent, or that we want. Grassroots up has never been fully tried in any country yet, so there's no proof to say that this wouldn't work. All we need is the buy-in from the people, and it will work.
Yep.
Was that succinct enough for you?
Yep.
I don't know. I was going for like 3 words, but I didn't manage to get anywhere near that.
Oh, right, okay. No, I can't do that. Sorry.
With 3-word socialists now.
Hocus pocus gone.
Not
Right,
doing
is that what you want?
3 words on the podium. Mm-mm.
Yeah. So, we've got a. Rochelle, do you want to go with your myth busting, or do we want to go with more comments while you think?
No, I've got one, but it's not. I don't know. It's not to stick. Like it's always really small in your head, isn't it? Until you start waffling on. One of them was. Do you remember when we did that video and Rachel Meaning was talking about like socialism isn't about taking something away from you, and I think that's really what people are worried about. Like when they talk about socialism, they're like, "Oh, hang on, what have I got to give? Who have I got to give it to? Who's it got to be divided out by?" And it's like it's not about. Well, part of it is about distributing wealth evenly, but part of it is just making sure. And I keep going back to like the children in the teaching age, because that's who I'm talking to a lot of the time. Like for instance, because I'm waffling now, people who are born into lots of money or have like an estate or anything like that. For instance, in lockdown, they might have a home library, so they might have like lots of reading books. They might have lots of books that they might be able to go and educate themselves with and all that kind of stuff. And they've got that to hand because of what they were born into. And on the other hand, you've got all of these kids who live in, deprived areas. They haven't got internet. They haven't got books at home. They haven't got libraries. And, socialism isn't about taking something away. It's just making sure that all of these children who are born without prejudice or anything like that have the same opportunities that other people do. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I would stress. Like, it's not true about, I want to take that library, I want to divide it up through all of the kids. It's not. It's about just making sure that if those kids need something, they've got access to it and that they don't have to ask for it. Like, it's there for them. Not small, sorry.
It was good, though. It was good. It wasn't 3 words, but it was good. So we've got another couple of comments coming in. Socialism gets in the way of entrepreneurship and innovation. The quick way I would say to respond to that, unless someone else wants to go.
It doesn't. 3 words.
I got it.
Well done. I would say that socialism is freedom.
It's about hope.
Yeah.
No, because
we did the 3-word thing.
I just want to highlight the 2 key words, right? The 2 key words, 3, sorry. Socialism, entrepreneurship, and innovation, right? And usually everybody says that socialism stifles innovation and entrepreneurship. And the reason it does that is by controlling the market in a particular way to set goals towards the overall goals of society. That's why they say it stifles it, because it's not as free, because it still has to conform to a societal goal. So they say, well, does it stifle it? I wouldn't say it stifles it. I'd say it gives it a direction. Would you not? Would you prefer everybody heading off in a direction what impacts society in a really bad way, i.e. the cigarette industry or things of that nature, where you can sit and, yes, it gives you a buzz, but it has a societal impact on public health, i.e. the NHS, people die earlier, you get cancer, all that type of stuff. Do you really think entrepreneurship happens there, where you're able to go and exploit a part of society, a vulnerable part of society that get bought into advertising and this model of perpetual addiction and what gets carried on in generations from parent to also a child. I don't see that as a very good model. Do you? That's a perfect example of what a real capitalist society does, and what you're saying entrepreneurship and innovation is. That's not innovation.
I think I agree. I agree with exactly what you said there, James, but also that socialism isn't about keeping people down. It's about raising other people up. So it's just about getting the people who have got the least and giving them a decent life. And that includes people being able to have the space and the time and the resources to be creative and to come up with innovative ideas. That's surely what we want. I mean, a Green New Deal, a green society will involve huge input from creative sectors and innovative ideas on how we can develop, greener technology and things like that. So I don't think socialism would keep anybody down. It wouldn't stifle anything. In fact, I think it would help it to flourish, because we have so many young people now who are just incredibly talented, who will never get the opportunity to show that because they don't have the resources that they need to be able to do that.
Well, they'll not get the chance anyway, because they're just going to keep reforming GCSEs until there's non-academic subjects.
Yeah.
We've a couple more comments, and then I'm going to wrap up with what we've got coming. See, this is really nice. I love this show because we have a small but dedicated audience who are really clever. That makes a massive difference. So what we've got is we've got Paul Smith. We've just answered. Anthony Riley, grassroots Labour and Socialists have simple policies. I've seen right from the beginning nationalise public services like the rip-off energy, water, housing, libraries, and that's interesting as well. That's that unnatural monopoly that water companies have. We'll talk about that one time because I think people need to understand that one. Housing, libraries, museums, education, communication and health, making the billionaires pay their fair share. Equality is important. So simple and easy to understand. Socialism is about giving back to the people what they've put into it. It's not a free ride. It's already being paid for. Well done. Well done. Nice. That is superb. It's not a free ride. It's already been paid for. It's in the Cayman Islands. If you want to add, see, I can't help but add something in. It's Mark Lungley. If it always fails, why do the capitalist countries always stage invasions and coups? I think that's why any real socialism actually fails. Every single time there's always an invasion, a coup. And look what happened in Bolivia, and it's frightening.
Yeah, good point.
It's really, really hard to do socialism properly in a capitalist world where you're like trying to do things that work for the people, and then you get strangled. You get strangled by the capitalism who's hang on, this is a threat. Paul Smith, great answer. I don't know who he was referring to. I'm going to guess everyone but me. So, but everyone's done great answers there. Mark, again, the thing to remember is capitalism is about free stuff. What they can, what they can get for free or for less than what it should be. If there wasn't that mindset, there would be no profit and capitalism would fail. Paul Smith, his 3-word slogan was capitalism suppressing talent, and Leanne likes our answers as well.
Nice.
Right, so I think that's a really good time to start rounding up, and I'm going to round up by asking, what have we got coming up this week, and have we got any insights into what's coming up next month as well? So, anyone want to go first? Because anyone who's got something in their head, who's only got one thing in their head that they know is coming up this week or this month.
I already know what mine is. I've been waiting for it all month.
And that is?
Ray Goodspeed. Get it already.
Ray Goodspeed. Ray Goodspeed is this time next week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an absolute corker, to be honest. It's really, really good. So, yeah.
Can I have two?
Let's let James do.
No, Laura can do mine because mine's not going to be an upcoming video. I'm just going to stick to my expertise for my questions, if you don't mind.
Oh, you definitely need to do that.
Oh.
Right, shall I go then? And then we'll finish on James' cliffhanger there. Okay, so next
James
week
has got a huge thing.
I've got Ken McCall from the Unity Shop in Hull. It was a really, really good interview. That is on Thursday for the Social Ties. And the following week, I think it's the following week, it is the week of International Women's Day. I'm so excited because we're going to have a collaboration with the ladies from Socialist Think Tank, the ladies from the Women's Banner Group, and the ladies from Last Cast. I'm so excited. I don't know what it's going to look like yet. It's going to go out probably live now that we don't have time to record anything. It's going to be awesome. Amazing women all in one place. Yay!
That sounds like a job for me. How is this going to work?
I did
and
think
Rochelle.
that I was looking at Laura thinking, Paul doesn't know.
It's going to be me and Rochelle. I'll be like, Rochelle, I need a frame. Rochelle, I need a frame. I don't know how I'm going to direct this. Like, I don't know how I'm going to...
We'll work it out. It's fine.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It's easy to say that. Really easy to say it's going to be fine.
Just go live, quickly. Just go live. It's fine.
Just go live like earlier on. Yeah, just go live. It'll be fine. I was like, I've had such a stress today. That's why I look like Howard Moon. So.
I didn't see me as Howard Moon. You're all right.
I'm going to bring in Anthony Riley as well. It says, hey, here's a question. How many people from a poorer background have had the opportunity to shine? Good ideas towards energy transport. In my view, they have had no chance because capitalism has stifled the chance because the poor have no money, poor credit, etc. And I think that's absolutely right. Like, capitalism is a stifling thing. If you've got the opportunities, you can do that. But how many people have the opportunities? We're limiting this to about 7% of the population who can go and do stuff. And I remember, I love things like the space missions and stuff. And I love that. And I love, I don't know if any of you have ever seen Bloodhound SSC and, you know, like the land speed record stuff, which is absolutely fascinating. And then they talk amongst each other and it's like every single one of them came from a pretty privileged background. And you're like, it's not because they don't deserve to be there, because they've certainly earned their place and they're certainly brilliant at what they do. But if it was fair, then you would have like working class people there as well. You know, that is not how things work. You are not born better because you're born richer, but you're just given more opportunities. So, yeah, it's a big one.
Like work experience, like even now work experience, people can't afford to go and do work experience and work for free because they've got bills to pay. And the people who have the better CVs, and I'm talking about a little bit older, like university type
interns.
People who are older, people who are older and can work for free or can do internships or can do all of these work experience things. They do it because they've got the money to lay down to live and then go and do whatever they want on top of that, whereas it's not the same for everybody. People can't afford to do that. You can't afford to go and do your job that you might not want to do to then get the job that you really want to do. Like it doesn't marry up.
Right, James's
thing.
James's thing.
He's forgotten.
My thing. Okay, stage is mine, is it? No, so this week we've spent a hell of a lot of time on the website. What we've done is reform the way we want to structure ourselves. So now we are accepting members and you can become a member for free. There is no financial obligation. Hello. You can do that by going to members.socialistthinktank.com, click become a member and sign up from there. All you need to do is put your name, your email address, your password, and you're done. You signed up, right? From there, we've got an internal forum. You can sit and have discussions and debates and provide feedback for all of the shows that we do. And from there, I hope we can expand that in future for other projects. And I would love your feedback for that. So if you have any feedback, please do provide it. Thank you.
Thanks, James, and thanks for all your work on that, because you've just managed to do this massive thing by yourself.
I love the fact that he said, we've done this and we've done that, and we haven't done anything. James has done it all, because he's amazing. Thank you, James.
Howard Mooney did out. Right, so...
couldn't even get the video on tonight. God.
What I'm looking forward to next month is we're going to have a really good St. Patrick's Day thing. We don't know what the group is called yet, but I am slightly involved in this, so it's going to be really good anyway. We're going to have a bit of an Irish event, which will be awesome. So looking forward to that. And I'm also looking forward to, we've got some really good interviews next month lined up, and we've already done a couple of them as well. So loads and loads of good stuff coming up, including Ray next week. So plenty of good stuff coming up. Yeah.
As always.
Shall we now say goodbye to everyone who's managed to hang around this amount of time?
I can't believe that. If you've stuck around this long, well done.
It's dwindled in the last couple of minutes, but it's been solid. So thank you again, and take care, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.